down. Paula, back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Greg. Actually, let's continue our conversation so we can dip into the silence actually, this is the moment of silence, Greg. Let's pause. And there you have it, the end of the moment of silence that the NASDAQ just practiced. You saw the neon lights go dark on the facade of the building. Now they're back up. This similar scene will be repeated downtown at the New York Stock Exchange after the opening bells that will ring at 9:30. Lou Dobbs will join us on the floor of the exchange then. Let's go back to Greg right now to get a better sense of what folks are bracing for there. Have brokers eaten a really big breakfast to get through this day, Greg? I can't even imagine the amount of pressure they're feeling this morning.
Exactly, Paul, and I don't know if anything can prepare them for that. You know, speaking with some of the trading desks this morning, they said it's just an incredibly, obviously, an emotionally charged feel to the open this morning, and that is something that really unnerves a lot of folks when you talk about the markets. Emotional buying or selling really on one side of the coin or the other really is not something a lot of traders like to see, but that's what they're expecting this morning. Also, keep an eye on the volume. They're expecting today anywhere from 2 to 3 times the normal volume on the NASDAQ. It's an electronic trading systems. They have passed all the stress tests they conducted over the weekend, but still, that's going to be something to really watch today, especially in the first 10 to 15 minutes. So between 9:30, quarter of 10, maybe 10 o'clock, you're expected to see a real surge in volume. And again, the stocks that are expected to lead the downside is expected to see some selling early on. Some of the airline stocks, we've seen Northwest shares, which were back here on the board before. If we can look at those, they're down 35% right now, again, in the pre-open trading. One thing to point out about volume, the pre-open market, generally speaking, you don't get the big volume, but today we are seeing an incredible surge in volume in those stocks. Microsoft, for example, down about 6%, has already traded more than 1 million shares in the last 45, 50 minutes in what is usually a thinly traded market in the pre-open, Paula. So a lot of folks just kind of buckling in for the next couple of hours.
Those seatbelts on. Greg, for folks that don't follow this stuff as closely as you do, we mentioned that the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange are extremely competitive. What is the significance of the fact that the head of NASDAQ will be heading downtown right now in a show of solidarity to be on the floor at the open of the New York Stock Exchange?
Very symbolic, Paul. I mean, over the weekend and speaking with some of the folks at the various exchanges, there was a real feeling that the best way to kind of send a message of stability to the markets was through unity, and that's exactly what they're hoping to do. And that is significant to see Wick Simmons, who's the head of the NASDAQ, down at the NYSE. These are two rivals. Companies do change places back and forth here occasionally, so there is a real rivalry built up. And today, though, that all being put aside, kind of locking arms and hoping that the markets will, open on time, open normally, and have somewhat of a stable trading day.
All right, thanks so much, Greg. We'll be checking in with you a little bit later on this morning. Right now, Andy Serwer joins us. If you folks read Fortune magazine, you will see his pieces there, and he also has a website, or you do columns on the internet, right?
That's right.
Okay,
yep.
So people know who you are. You and I talked a little bit earlier on about the federal rate cut, the 0.5%. You've been on the phone talking to traders, talking to brokers. What are they saying?
Well, I've got to tell you, the anticipation is rising, the anxiety is rising. We're just a few minutes away. Everyone's laying down their bets, getting ready to go. Lou talked about tech stocks being lower, so did Greg. Airline stocks are down. The one that's trading, Northwest in pre-market trading, is down almost 40%. we have to remember, Paula, where the market was before this happened, and that is a weak market. The market was not doing very well. So the fact that things fall from here should not be that much of a surprise, because we had some weak numbers, some weak economic forecasts and indicators as this was happening and before it happened. So if the market goes down, it's not just the fact that we had this tragedy. The economy is not in great shape.
Some economists are saying this morning, some of whom were quoted in the Wall Street Journal this morning, you can't stave off a recession.
Yeah, and
are they overreacting?
No, I don't think they're not. I think it'll be difficult to stave off a recession. Let's remember, last quarter the economy grew 0.2%, which is to say barely at all. This quarter, even before this episode, the economy was barely growing. And look what happened here. Major parts of the economy have simply not been functioning for an entire week. The airlines, Wall Street, just those little incremental bits can move the economy into a negative growth mode. But having said that, I don't think people should be so concerned, because we may have been heading there anyway. And I just spoke with Michael Price, the big investor, and he said it's like Muhammad Ali getting punched in the gut in the first round. He got punched in the gut, but he's going to come back because it's a long fight, and I think that's the way people should look at this.
It's a powerful analogy. As we speak, you're going to be competing with the image of the facade of the New York Stock Exchange because we, of course, are just about 9 minutes away from the opening of the exchange. Yesterday, various administrative officials were put out who basically repeated the same message. Get prepared for a war that doesn't last days, doesn't last weeks, doesn't last months, but lasts years. If there is any kind of military action that is launched, historically, what will these already weakened markets end up doing?
Well, obviously it's not good news. And you know, it's so interesting. We're talking about a market response to this episode, this horrible attack that just happened. The response to that on Wall Street will be unknown. We're about to find out. Layered on top of that, and people aren't even discussing this, would be a military response. What kind of a military response? We don't even know. Will there be a widespread attack in the Middle East? That would be very bad news for the world economy. We could see oil shocks, and the damage could be much more severe.
Andy Serwer, if you'd stand by, I want to catch up with Lou Dobbs, who's on the floor. Here we are 8 minutes away from the opening bell. You, Lou, have described the amount of pressure these traders are under, but there's a tremendous amount of pent-up raw emotion there, too, about what kind of toll this tragedy has taken on this community. Tell us about that.
Paula, the emotion here is rising dramatically. Everybody is moving into position, and it's going to be very difficult. Dick Grasso, the chairman of the New York Exchange, if you can hear me, is addressing these four traders and specialists, joined by Senator Hillary Clinton, Senator Charles Schumer, Governor George Pataki, representatives of the New York Police Department, the New York Fire Department and Emergency Services. A very emotional reception as these traders welcomed them with an outrageous ovation as they assumed the balcony.
We're going to stay with the sound for a moment or two to give people a sense of appreciation of the show of solidarity here, because I don't know if we're going to be able to hear you.
Paula,
you can jump in here whenever you think you're not going to be drowned out.
Okay, Paula, if you can hear me, these traders are getting ready to do business, but a very defiant mood. If I can, just let me give you the setting for what is going to happen here. At 9:30, instead of simply the opening bell, the New York Exchange will observe 2 minutes of silence. 2 minutes of silence. And then Major Roseanne Srignoli of the United States Marine Corps will sing God Bless America before trading actually opens at 9:33. If we can get the cameras to pan, and I would appreciate if you could pan over to the balcony where Dick Grasso is addressing the exchange and introducing those people who will help to open the bell. There we are. Now, Dick Grasso, who's done a remarkable job here of leading these people and leading the effort to restore the New York Exchange to
criminals who inflicted this heinous crime on America and all Americans that they have lost. Our nation has come back together as we have in times past. Whether it be war or economic challenge, we are one country today, committed, unified in the pursuit to find and punish and obliterate those who committed that horrible act against this great nation. I want to thank so many people, so many agencies. This resumption of trading.
And we want to welcome our CNN FNN viewers now as we join the CNN coverage of Dick Grasso addressing his traders with a defiant talk about those who are responsible for these terrorist attacks.
Coming to New York and saying he hears, he experiences the pain, and those who took those buildings down will hear from us soon. Today, we are graced that we will, at our tradition at 9:30, pause to reflect for 2 minutes on those whom we've lost, on those who are still missing and God hope still alive, and certainly for all who were killed and injured in the Pentagon in Pennsylvania, those wonderful people on the planes. This is a moment of reflection. So at 9:30, we will single stroke and pause for 2 minutes. We will then be led in God Bless America by Major Roseanne Scrignoli of the United States Marine Corps. After which, our heroes, representing the fabulous men and women who are crawling through the rubble as we speak, seeking survivors, representatives of the New York City Fire Department, Police Department, the emergency services and rescue teams, and the Port Authority Police. Our heroes who make today's resumption possible will ring this opening bell. And make no mistake about it, these wonderful men and women who put their lives on the line, all of the agencies, police, fire, emergency rescue, all of the varying neighboring police departments who are here, allow us to do what we do. This couldn't happen without their great guidance and help, and certainly their love and affection for this great country. Let us celebrate these wonderful men and women. Ladies and gentlemen, each of the wonderful public officials who are with me on the podium will join me on the trading floor, and I know you will join me in extending the traditional NYSE welcome, a hug, and a job well done. We wouldn't be here today without this fabulous partnership. Let us all pause in a moment for a reflection of 2 minutes, followed by Roseanne singing of God Bless America.